Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's episode we are going to go over one attack. We are going to go over Damian Johnson, who I had thought that I had covered before. We haven't covered it yet. I'm also going to go over and recap what happened the day before the Damian Johnson attack. And after we get done with that, I'm going to have a discussion a little bit about this attack that just happened over in Israel, this predation, another grisly one caught on tape. And after that I'll have some comments, so stick around, it's going to be a great show. Okay, now we're going to head over to Booming Bay, which is over in Australia. Off of Maria Island, there was two gentlemen that were doing some scallop diving, and they were both on hookah, so they both had the lines hooked up so that they could breathe. They were in a 22-foot fiberglass boat. They had two young men on the boat monitoring their breathing equipment, I'm sure. And they're down doing some scallop diving. Now, they started out early in the afternoon, and they weren't getting any luck, and when you're scallop diving, you dive, you look, and you move. So by about 5 o'clock, 4:30, they ran themselves they went up into shallower water, which is about 8 meters deep, about 25 feet deep, from the 40 feet deep they were at before, and they started finding scallops. So now they're on this area, but there's 35 knot wind, and it's pushing the boat. They can't get the anchor to stick. So what they do is they jump off the boat before they get to the scallops. The tide and the wind pushes the boat off of their area, but they dive down, they get their scallops, and they come to the surface. Boat comes back, and they put their scallops on. The boat takes them back over because they've all drifted off of the site now. Takes them back over, they jump back in the water, and this process continues. By 5:30, they said they've done this 7 times. They're going in the water for the 8th time now. So the boat drops them into the water, and Danny Smith is the first one we'll talk about, and he goes down and he fills up his bag of scallops. And he starts heading to the surface. Well, he explains that he likes to go to the boat. He's heard of too many problems with sharks when you go straight up to the surface and swim over. So he likes to follow his line over to the boat and go up to where the boat is. And he kind of does this process, and he's on his way to the surface. Now, they stop a little bit and rest. Well, he just stopped, and he was looking around, and he says he was thinking to himself, wow, his buddy Wade Cleary, who was in the water too, he was saying, wow, Wade's probably coming up with a full bag of them too, and we're just going to have tons of these scallops. And like I said, this was the 8th time they've gone in the water collecting these scallops. So he's on his way to the surface, and he says he felt a tap on his shoulder. Now there's 4 meters of visibility, so you can see about 13 feet away. He says this tap on the shoulder felt like a human tapping you on the shoulder real quick. He says as soon as he turned, he knew what it was. He turns, and there's a 13 to 14 foot great white shark that's right next to him. And it's doing a slow circle pattern around him, and he says he could have pet the shark if he wanted to. It was that close. He says it knows it was a female shark because it must have turned on its side, and you could see that it didn't have the claspers. Female shark. They're usually larger in girth than a male shark, you know, big shark, and that's what he said this was. And he slowly made his way to the boat, to the surface, with this shark staying that close to him the whole way there. He says when he got about a meter from the boat, a few feet from the boat, the shark disappeared. He gets himself on the boat now, and he's freaking out, asking the kids on the boat, where is Wade, his other diver? They say Wade popped up about 100 yards behind the boat. So Dan Smith says, I wasn't thinking. I just told them we got to get him in. There's a great white shark in the water. And he says, if I was thinking, I would have backed the boat up to him. Instead, we grabbed the line and started dragging him through the water at a pretty decent rate of speed, making him look like a lure. Well, sure enough, shortly after that, they see fins pop up behind Danny Smith. And they also see Danny Smith do what they call a roll. He was spun in a 360, not in a flip, but a roll around. Because he says at first he thought when he was hit, because it's very choppy out there. He thought he was hit by a wave. He says, but when his face re-entered the water, when he got spun around, rolled by the shark, he could see the shark heading to the bottom, to the seafloor. So he knew that the shark must have came up and hit him, and he says it felt like a truck that hit him. So it spun him around. They had stopped pulling as soon as they saw so they must have saw the fins as soon as he was hit by the shark, and it spun him, and then the shark disappeared underneath Wade Cleary, and then they pulled him the rest of the way back in. They get Wade to the boat. Wade gets to the boat, and they're trying to get him up onto the boat frantically because the shark's still in the area. They can't get him up on the boat because his scallop bag is stuck on the ladder. So after getting that sorted out, they get him up on the boat. They say right after they get him up on the boat, the shark surfaces, kind of lays back on its side like it's looking at them, and just disappears under the water. That's what they saw of the shark. It happened at 5:30 on the 24th. They reported it to authorities at 8:30, 8:45 the next day on the 25th, which is the day of the fatality with Mr. Damian Johnson that we're going to go over after this one. But first, we're going to get into the shark. They both said that the shark, when they were with them, other than the shark rolling Wade Cleary when they were pulling him like a lure across the water, both said the shark was not acting intimidating. It was more curious than anything. It had a nice steady pattern and movement. It wasn't anything frantic, anything threatening. I mean, even though it is a great white shark. Both of them know sharks very well. Both of them claim this is a great white shark. The odd thing they say about this great white shark is they said it was almost all white. Albino shark, and I've heard of those being out there. So maybe it was one of those, and it's a female shark. So if you see a female albino shark about 14 foot or bigger by now, that was 2015, so this thing would probably be around 18 feet now at least, I would think. But it would be white in color. They said that you could barely see the difference in the gray to the white. And they knew it was a great white shark though, but they were taken by the color of the shark. So that ends up happening, and then they go in, like I say, the next morning. They end up reporting this at about 8:40. Now in the same area in Booming Bay, this time it's more off of Lachlan Island, which is further west, I believe it is, than Maria Island. That's where Damian Johnson and his daughter Olivia are diving for scallops. They're diving for the scallops, and they're in deep enough water. They're both on hookah, that they're taking a break halfway up to make sure they don't get bends, and then they go to the surface. And they're doing well. They had gotten out there at 7 o'clock in the morning, I do believe it is, and they ended up getting basically their limit by 9:30. By about 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock they re-enter the boat, and they go through all their scallops, and they're tossing back the ones that aren't keepers, the ones that aren't legal to keep. They're tossing them back. And when they finish this up, it's about 9:30, I do believe it is, and they see that they're 14 scallops short from their overall two-person quota. So Damian is going to get back into the water. He borrows his daughter's regulator so that he can breathe, and he gets back in the water, and she thought it would be 5 minutes and he'd have these 14 scallops and they'd be out of there. 10 o'clock rolls around and he has not resurfaced. We're talking a half hour, 25 minutes to a half hour. Damian Johnson has not surfaced. She calls her mother at that point and tells her mother what's going on. And after she apprises her mother, she gets into the water. She puts on her snorkel and her mask because her dad's got a regulator. So she is slow. Now she gets in the water, and the first thing she notices, there's no bubbles coming up to the surface from her dad's breathing apparatus that sends up bubbles. So now she's worried. And she's following the line out to where it drops into the water. So the line is floating on the water for a certain distance. It's about 50 yards from the boat. She swims out, and then the line descends into the water, so she sticks her head under the water. She's 10 meters from her father, who is in the jaws by his chest. The shark, this 13, 14 foot shark, monstrous, she says, has her dad in its mouth. He's upside down. His mask is off. breathing apparatus is off. There's no bubbles coming out. And she can see his torso, his arms, but his legs are gone. So his legs have been bitten off just above the knee, both of them. She swims cautiously, doesn't want to make any splashing motions and disturb the shark and have it come to see what she's doing. She makes her way the 50 yards back to the boat, calls her mother real quick, tells her about it, then she fires off a flare. There's about 15 to 20 boats in the area that are doing the same type of diving or fishing or whatever they're doing in the area, and 3 or 4 boats respond to her flare. And they get over to her, and the gentleman put her in this gentleman's, Mr. Gallagher, I believe his boat is. They put her in his boat, and then the 2 other gentlemen take their boat over, and they retrieve the body. They pull him up by the air hose. So the air hose is still connected, but you know, he didn't have his mask on, so he couldn't breathe the water. Breathe the air when he was underwater, and I don't think he would have survived anyway. So this is, she had 10:25, she made the flare. So you're talking, the shark had him in its jaws like 20 minutes beforehand. So they pulled the body up. They could see right away that he had passed away. He had a bite mark that was to his arm and to his torso, to his chest. And then they said that his 2 legs were gone. So they ended up taking his remains in. His daughter ended up going in, and she was in severe shock, of course. So she had to go into the hospital as well. And 2 days later, they did an autopsy on with the body, and they showed the photos and everything to a shark expert, and they determined the size of the shark, 13, 14-foot great white shark. Olivia, the daughter, said that the shark was mostly gray, just a huge gray shark. A lot of them are gray on top. This one looks like it might be a little bit blue. Gray, blue, brown, they come in different colors. And so they said that it was 13, 14-foot shark. The first one that took out the legs, and that's confirmed by Olivia, because when she saw the shark, it had her father in its jaws already. Where that second bite ended up being at, they said the bite on the legs was on an angle, and it took off the legs just above the knees, but it was kind of diagonal, so one of them was shorter than the other once that were bitten, and that there was this gash into the back, the torso, the arm, from the bite that the shark grabbed him the second time, but did not predate him, did not go ahead and try to eat him. So they determined that it was done by a shark of that size, and this thing will go down in our stats, because I had seen one of the viewers had commented many times in the comments, "Hey, have you covered this attack?" And I always thought I did. I didn't. So this thing is going down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. 13 to 14-foot great white shark, and that's how that's going to go down. I do not believe, just like I said when I covered the incident with the shark the day before, that it was the same shark that went ahead and attacked Mr. Damian Johnson, and that was when I was thinking that it was a fatality, predation, because it would have been a desperate shark the day before. I still don't think it's the same shark, because the coloration is so much different by the description of the sharks, and I don't believe it's a predation. I believe this is an angry shark, as angry as the shark that went ahead and bit Mr. Ben Linden. Not Ben Linden, Louis Boren. The bite that took out the chunk of his surfboard and his chest all the way up to the center, that one bite attack, that's the same thing. Angry shark, angry enough to do that, to bite your legs off in the first attack. And how many attacks have we gone over with these big great whites that have bitten legs and haven't taken them off? We've gone over tons of them. So I believe it's a factor of they're a lot more angry than normal that you're in the water than they are just with like a normal surfer, something like that. So that's how that goes down. Attack, not an attempt to predate, by a 13, 14-foot great white shark. Now that we got that one out of the way, we're going to talk about this attack that I had watched. Another video. Like I said, the more that these attacks are happening, now with everybody having phones, we're going to see more and more of these videos, and this one is just heartbreaking. First of all, it was the wrong kind of shark you want to be eaten by. If I'm going to be eaten by a shark, I want it to be a big shark. Big tiger shark, huge bull shark, well, huge tiger shark, 18-footer, 15-foot or so, bigger great white. I don't want to mess with a bull. They only get 13 feet, and you're going to be able to tell what they're doing, like with this shark that went ahead and did that, and that smaller tiger that went ahead and attacked poor Popoff in the other video that they have. But the same situation, and it seems like it's a 10-minute video, and it's a minute 29 seconds. But it's a tough minute and 29 seconds because you can see him being attacked at first, and he gets pushed through the water at a high rate of speed. It's only a short distance, but it's a pretty high rate of speed that the shark takes him through the water. So obviously swimming a little bit with him as he's been bitten, and then you see him multiple times, the shark fin, the shark on him, and then him disappear, him pop back up. And the problem is these sharks, they're doing their damage, unlike a big shark that's going to do a lot of damage and do you in quick. You're going to notice a lot more of this, kind of like with the oceanic white tip that the one gentleman saw his friend pieced up at when he was diving down there. It was another Rodney. I just can't remember his last name, but I know it was a Rodney Temple. So same thing that happened with Rodney Temple. You do not want to get with one of these sharks that is not a big one that can do some damage and finish off quick. Let's put it that way. So we get about a minute into the video, and it's a horrendous video to watch. And then the shark goes into a feeding frenzy on its own. Now, two things could have happened. Well, a few things could have happened there, but I'm wondering, did another shark show up in the area at that point? He wouldn't have been able to have been fighting off the shark by that point. A lot of times when you fight off a shark, in the books by H. David Baldrige, he gives the percentage of the time that fighting it, even with a weapon, when it works, when it doesn't, and when it makes it worse. And a lot of times it makes it worse. Well, it's too late in the attack that he would be able to be fighting back with that shark to frustrate it, let's say. So I'm wondering if another shark showed up in the area and he started going a little bit psycho on it, because he gets a lot more excited towards the end of that, and it's just sad because he's still alive at that point. I mean, it's just rough to watch, and it broke my heart to see the shark just acting like that at that point. It's like, oh man, stay out of the water. I don't want to watch this stuff, and I'm going to have to watch this stuff. I mean, it's what I do. It's just sad. I mean, what are you going to do? And nobody's telling people, you know, stay out of the water. All you have to do is have them watch the pop-off video, this video, the video in Nellis, and they'd never enter the water again. Yet, oh my goodness, nobody should watch this. It's so sensitive material. It's private material. It's every excuse in the book to keep from telling people what they need to know, to keep from giving people the information they should have to be able to make an informed decision. That's all I'm doing with the show. I'm telling you what I'm putting these down as. I'm telling you how I'm categorizing them. I'm just trying to find out what the actual stats are with large sharks that actually kill people, which is the purpose of the show. And I don't care what you believe. You can go ahead and believe that there's mistaken ID. I don't see it. You can go ahead and believe there's bite and weight. I don't see it. There's a lot of this stuff that I don't see anymore. That's just a rough one to watch, and like I said, stay out of the water. If you're going to go in the water, stay in like ankle deep water, to where only little dogfish that these MBs and Shark World is experts at. So that's the story right now on that attack. The other thing I want to say about it is that fin, that dorsal fin, looked awfully big for a dusky shark. So I think they get bigger than I think. Had to be like a 13-foot shark to have that size of a dorsal is what I'm thinking, because the dusky shark, a lot of these sharks are related to the bull shark. They're like cousins to them, and their tails are like similar, and their dorsal fins are kind of similar. They have a lot of similarities with the bull shark, and the dusky shark does as well. And we've gone over a dusky shark that's done a fatality, but never consuming somebody like that. So I would say that's a hell of a desperate shark right there. Very sad situation. We'll cover it with all the details. A year from now. I usually wait a while to cover them, but I did want to go over what I had seen, just to give you an update that I've had people send it to me, and thank you as always. And it's just stunning that this stuff happens. And it looked like he was, I don't know where he was grabbed, how far out he was. It looked like about 100, 150 yards from shore where this ended up happening. And I saw two different angles of the shots too. The one from the side is kind of shorter video than the one from the shore straight out from the beach, but both tough to watch. So yeah, stay out of the water. Stay out of the water, watch the show. It's a lot better than going in the water and never being able to watch the show. That's those attacks. That's all covered now. Jeez, man, I was supposed to be back like a week and a half ago, the day every time I get to do this stuff. But yeah, had a little medical emergency in the family. We think it was a mini stroke with my mother, 76 years old. She's 20 years older than I am. And you know, spent some time in the hospital with her the couple days she was in. The one day she couldn't even talk. She couldn't even say sentences. And the good thing was that she knew that she couldn't say the sentences. A lot of times that happens to people. They don't realize they can't say what they want to say. They just keep talking and don't realize it. So that was a good sign. And then like in a day, all of that fixed itself. So then been taking her to, the last week I've been taking her to a few appointments, 3 or 4 appointments. I got to take her to an appointment in a couple days here, a 6 to 8 hour EEG, because we want answers to what happened. You know, they wanted to say, you know, seizures, but we don't have any history of seizures in any of my family, not branched out, but we do have strokes. So I believe it was my mother's father and my mother's father's uncle that had the strokes in the family. So they are there. But it was an odd situation. That's one of the reasons I wasn't here. Another reason is, like I said, I've been on X trying to let people, creators, know what's going on there. I thought X was throttling me because I know about YouTube's rigging. Shit, they're rigged just as bad. So now I figured out what they're doing. They're doing it all with bots. And they're using bots to retweet people's stuff, which drops their reach. So MAGA gets all these retweets and they get much less impressions. They're seen less than much smaller non-MAGA channels, I should say, lefty channels. So I've been on there a lot trying to deal with that. I don't know why. Creators are just about the most, everybody knows everything. So what are you gonna do? You can't help anything like that. So tomorrow, or which will be today, which is Tuesday, which is bringing me into this little story. We're going to do a little, what were you thinking? But it's not going to have anything to do with sharks. So tomorrow, Tuesday, at about 10:30, I'm hoping I'll be at the place I saw Ronald Reagan. The only other place I saw another president, that was back in 1986. I was in 11th grade in the high school right across the street from where Trump's going to be tomorrow, and that's the same place I saw Reagan 28 years ago or whatever it was. So yeah, he's going to be at Macomb Community College. I went to Wormwoods Tower High School, right across the street. We used to call it 12 Mile High because it's right off of 12 Mile, the college. We were off Bunner, which is like 11.5 mile. And so the president's coming, Reagan is coming in 1986. It was April, late April, early May, because it was nice weather. So we get out of school early. I think it was about 11 o'clock, 11:30. By about 12:30, me and a buddy of mine, and I'm not going to name my buddies because I don't want to, but me and my buddy are walking. So me and a buddy, we're walking through the campus. I live 1.5 miles away. They bus us home at this point, and I'm going to have to walk the 1.5 miles home, but I'm going to stay and see my president, Reagan. I was never able to vote for him, but I'd be damned if I'm not going to see this guy if I can't. So I went ahead and we're walking through there, and we're looking up at all the buildings. And you could just see all the guns, barrels were all sticking off the top of the building. You knew where Secret Service was on all of those buildings. I was stunned at how many were there. I just kept looking, going, damn, man, look at all this stuff. Well, up ahead of me and my buddy is my buddy's brother, and he's about 10 yards in front of us, so it's about 12 o'clock. He's about 10 yards in front of us walking through the commons, and my buddy's, and I think he's walking with a friend. If I remember correctly, his brother is on my side. My friend is on the right of me. His brother is on the left. So his brother is in front of me about 10 yards up, and his friend is on the other side, on the right of him. And all of a sudden, his brother's walking, and he's got his leather jacket on. And we're all smartasses at a time. I mean, you're 17 years old. Who's not a smartass at 16, 17 years old? But we all know that there's limits to what you do. His brother up in front of us, I see him put his arms up like this. I mean, it's not funny because it's just sad, but he puts his arms up like this, straight up, and yells, "Your president's dead." Oh my God. At least a dozen. And it wasn't, I could have said 1, 2. They were already had him to the floor. I had to the ground. I'd never seen anything like that. It's right in front of us. Holy shit, man. What are you thinking? What? I still can't believe I witnessed that right in front of me. So, yeah, you know, went ahead and ruined his life, basically, for a joke. It wasn't very funny. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing, is I'm going to see President Trump tomorrow. I'm going there hopefully at 10:30. I'm going to try to get myself in the building to actually be there for when he's talking at 6 o'clock. I got to be there at 10:30 in the morning. And they're not going to let us into the grounds until 11:45 or something like that, and then we got to be in the building by about 3:45. Or they'll start letting us in the building at 3:40. I don't know. I do know that he's going to be there, and that's where I saw it. Now, when I saw Reagan, I just was there to watch the helicopter land. He walked out of the helicopter, and I walked my ass home. That's not happening this time. Yeah, so I'm hoping to have a good time, just sit there and hang out with the people and with the president for his 100-day anniversary. It feels like he's been in office for a year already. So that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be back in a few more days. So thanks for watching, and as always, if you go into that water, you much more afraid of these sharks than they are of you.